The problem with a lot of doctors is they've gone straight from them, very smart at school. They've gone straight from school into the med program, and they don't know anything else. And the way the medical program's taught is to wait till someone gets a disease and then give them a pill, which is shit. The hospitals are overloaded because we're waiting for people to get the disease and then we're trying to treat them. And it should be the other way around. I always use the quote. You've got to sometimes stop pulling people out of the river and go upstream and see why they're falling in. And that's what healthcare should be about. So practicing as a Western GP, and yeah, I was pretty Westernised. When you go through a medical program, you do become a bit of a believer in Western medicine because it's all data and statistics and big studies, and we know the big studies done by pharmaceutical, but you do sort of come out pretty brainwashed. And then I guess in my first years of GPing, it's just a revolving door of the same people coming in to get their blood pressure pill, to get their pain pills, to get their antidepressants, to get their thing. And after a while, it's not very rewarding. You're not changing anyone's life. You're just keeping them at this shitty, so they're just surviving, not thriving. But as a GP, just seeing this revolving door, I'm like, come on, there's got to be something better we could do here. And then luckily, in 2016, medicinal cannabis became legal to prescribe. So I started prescribing in 2018, and I'll never forget the first patient. I was GPing up at Gympie, and the first patient I prescribed cannabis to, she was an older lady who just couldn't sleep, chronic insomnia. All the doctors before me had, throwing sleeping pills at her, everything under the sun, and it just wasn't working. I was just having horrible side effects. So I said to her, would you be interested in trying cannabis? And she was about 70, so she goes, oh yeah, dear, I'll have a go with that, yes, of course. So I prescribed her some THC oil, and at that time it was a really long process to get it through, and waited for the documents to come back, and she was approved, and so I got her back in and said, oh, you've been approved, here you go, here's your bottle now. Start with this little amount and work your way up. And 2 days later, she just came into the doctor's surgery without an appointment and came in the door and gave me a big hug and just said, I'm sleeping. And then from there, it's just grown. And, I slowly did more and more cannabis consults and slowly phased out. And, it just became my go-to. When anyone came in the room with anything, you've got inflammation. What do you think about cannabis? And it grew from there because it's a much better option than pharmaceuticals. So yeah, my own experience with cannabis as a self-treating patient, which a lot of people who use cannabis are, they're self-medicating. They're using it because they get benefit, whereas other people view it as they just want to get stoned. But someone like myself actually gave me benefit gave me a break from my brain. But most of us are probably engaged with it, staying reactive to external stimuli. So most of us, when we consume cannabis, we still sit on the couch and watch TV, or we put music, or you would talk to friends, have a bit of a laugh, whatever. But when you actually, when you set the intention and turn everything inwards, blindfolds on, some music on, and turn everything inwards and see where the plant takes you in your body, that's, you can have the huge shifts that Paul's been speaking about. So, I love getting the old stoners who come in and, oh, doc, I've been smoking weed for years, just give me your strongest stuff, I'll be right. And, when I can sit down with them and teach them actually how to use it properly and with the right apparatus and the right device and at the right temperatures, and working on why they're using it instead of just, using it habitually because it's there, it can make a really big change. There still are people who use it sort of recreationally, so to speak, but I think that term, I would much prefer someone, after a hard day's work to come home and engage with some cannabis than smash 6 beers and get on the gambling apps, and it's a much better option. So if that's deemed as a recreational, coming home and having a couple of puffs after work, then I'm happy with that.